Neo Turf Masters for Neo Geo Pocket Color, a 1999 port of the Neo Geo arcade game of the same name, is a golf game that gives you 6 golfers of varying strengths and sizes to choose from, and 3 18-hole courses to play with. From there, it's tea time. Well, not that kind of tea, but regardless, here's how you play Neo Turf Masters, everyone. You start on the course screen where you aim your intended shot, taking into account the lay of the land as well as the speed and direction of the wind, which will affect your shot somewhat. Pick your club, how you intend to swing, whether you want to slice, you want to hook, or you want to go straight, which I'm sure means something to people who know the game of golf, I guess. And then you watch the meters go up and down to determine not only the strength of your hits, but also the height or the length or whatever this meter entails. And then you watch your golfer hit the thing, making sure the meter's not in the red, otherwise you'll miss, and making sure the ball lands on terrain that isn't rough or bunker or out of bounds, because that'll give you an extra stroke, or lose a try or something. Once you reach the green, it's just a matter of getting the ball in the hole and pressing the button at the precise moment the meter hits the right level. More often than not, this is probably the easiest part of the game, though be careful with the slopes, they'll throw you off. And that's all there is to it. Once you get your head around how everything works and functions, which really shouldn't take long, it's actually pretty playable, and the game does its best to acclimate the player to its control setup, whether they be a fan of the sport or largely ignorant of its many intricacies. And really, it's not that difficult to figure out the controls because they make it so easy to function with. Now, managing the courses in a somewhat competent fashion is another matter entirely, and it's safe to say that when it comes to golf, well, let's just say it's not a particularly strong suit of mine unless it involves ninjas. And mind you, sports games in general is not something I gravitate towards normally, but sometimes there'll be the one exception that manages to keep me hooked, even if I don't manage a good game out of it, and Neo Turf Masters certainly does that. It's relatively easy to pick up and play, but challenging to defeat and difficult to conquer. There's a couple different modes of play, including a stroke play mode for normal play, a handicap which is somewhat of a survival mode of sorts, and the Triple Crown which acts as a career mode of sorts where it keeps track of your progress and things of that nature. These are basically dressing for the same core gameplay which holds up well enough regardless. The game also saves your stats and stuff so long as your battery works on the system, because that's important. Much like most Neo Geo arcade content converted to the portable format, Neo Turf Masters adopts a much simpler, chipified visual style that suits the game rather well. In terms of the actual golfers, they look alright, simple images, simple animated crowd in the background, plenty of expressive faces and postures depending on your performance in the game. In terms of the rest of the game, the overall layout looks crisp and clean, the terrain, the backgrounds are fairly decent fare, and it's easy to tell what kind of terrain you've got ahead of you because the game lets you know. It's a clean looking enough little game with a pleasant visual style. Neo Turf Masters sports some cheerful, suitably relaxing tunes to serenade your striving turf mastering career. I assume these are the same tunes you get from the original Neo Geo version, but done with lesser hardware, and it sounds alright for the most part, fits in nicely with the redesigned visuals of this portable iteration. Sound effects are adequate fare, nothing out of the ordinary, nothing grating, nothing to complain about. Overall, Neo Turf Masters on the Neo Geo Pocket Color is a fairly simplistic yet challenging little golf game that is easy to learn, simple to understand, and yet not so much that it is a complete cakewalk. It's the kind of game you'll pick up, spend a little time on it, be satisfied with it, and put it down and do something else. It's not a game for everyone, obviously, and those who don't care for golf or anything based on it, well, Neo Turf Masters won't change your mind in that regard, but as a bit of a lark on the go, it's perfectly fine.